Well, hi there. I thought it'd be interesting to show how I make an airport tour. I don't really use anything too fancy as far as editing goes, but I thought I'd just kind of show what process I use. It's fairly simple. Definitely nothing that, requires a lot of skill or expertise. This is one in progress. This is a tour of Bradley Airport up in Connecticut. So what I have here is just my timeline. I know that my channel is infamous for featuring some pretty short clips, and so, even a shorter video like this one, which is right now about 6 minutes, is going to have, maybe upwards of 100 plus clips, which are all loaded there. So, to start a video, what I would do is I would just, and by the way, I'm using Corel VideoStudio X8, which is, I think, a fairly good video editor. I like its output formats. It makes editing and outputting in 4K pretty easy, because you don't edit in 4K, but the output is what counts. So what I would start with is, I would just insert my video. So, depending on where I have those stored, I have them stored just as a temp folder for video projects. So these are all those clips. The little code on there just shows what camera it is. So C27 is my code for my Panasonic HC VX870, and then these are all the clips, and so that kind of lets me remember when they were taken. So this is relatively short, has only about 96 files, and those originally amounted to about 9.5 minutes. So I would just import those. I've already done that. The next steps, which again I've already done, what I have to do with each video clip, which can be a little time consuming, is I have to go through each one and trim off the end, because what happens with the camera, and maybe this happens in general, is usually at the end of the clip, I guess the camera won't stop recording right after pressing record button, and so what you see with most of these is the camera just kind of, it has this part where it goes to the bottom, and that would be really distracting if you saw it after every clip. And so I just trim that out. Usually I trim out about half a second, which isn't too bad. And then what I have to decide is how I want to order the clips. What I usually like to do is I usually like to start, at least with an airport tour, with the gates area. And so this just shows, the gates area of the airport, some of the planes there. And then after that, usually at first I film the gates. Then I would go and I would show video of the check-in area. So, kind of moving ahead here to about 4 minutes in. This is where the check-in area starts. So it's not chronological, because the check-in area is the first part that I filmed. Actually, the baggage claim was. So here's the check-in area, and then after that, I would have the baggage claim area, kind of the arrivals area, which is below that. So that's somewhere down here. Yeah. So that's kind of, I guess these are the first clips where I'm just kind of entering the airport, showing the arrivals area outside, and then there's a baggage claim. And then after that, if I have video of the airport from the plane that I'm on, I will usually film that, and so that's kind of where the video ends. So that process is all really simple. I always make sure I have ripple editing enabled. That makes sure that if I have subtitles added in, which I normally do, those will be added there. So once I have, kind of my clips lined up, what I like to do normally, and I might even do this earlier as well, is to kind of get a picture of each of the wide-body aircraft I have in my tour, and then kind of, put that in a little log I have for my wide-bodies, so that then I can put that information into the video. And this is often the most time-consuming part of an airport tour, especially if I'm in an airport like Chicago that has a lot of wide-bodies. Now, in this, at Bradley, I didn't actually see any wide-body passenger aircraft that day, so we're just going to pretend that this 757 is a wide-body. So, let's play pretend for a minute. So normally what I do is I'm going to take a snapshot of the aircraft. So I'm just going to edit, take snapshot, and I have these folders or these windows lined up here, so that once I take the snapshot, I have it right there. What I would do then is I would then look at the snapshot if I need to, or look at the main video to see what the registration was. I actually have that stored here. So this is EILBR. And so then I put this on my nice little plane registration log. And this log is pretty comprehensive. It's a way for me to just kind of keep track of all the wide-body passenger aircraft I've seen in my videos, because I kind of like to keep track of those. You know, it's kind of nice to see, oh, wow, I found this, you know, aircraft at another airport too. And so just kind of going through the log, you'll see it's pretty expansive. It reflects, you know, about 5+ years of just, you know, seeing different wide bodies. Maybe it's a little obsessive, but so we'll just pretend that this is also wide body. So, you know, I would kind of log what was the occasion. There was an airport tour. And then, oh, I think that Airling, this is AE. So then what I'll do is, you know, I just kind of put in the registration, EILBR, EILBR, and this was at VDL. So what I would then do is, once I have the photos saved, let me hide this really quickly. And you can see this is the part that kind of takes a while. Whoops, I just inserted something. Let me hide that. So what I would then do is I just put the date that I saw, and that's why I have this little video full at the bottom. So then I know this is, okay, yeah, this is back in 2019, September 10. And then I also like to, you know, connect the plane to the clip, the video clip. So this was, well, I guess the actual clip would have been, C27 21085. So this probably isn't that relevant for you, but that's just kind of how I like to store those in my log. And then what I'm able to do, let me hide this one really quickly too, is I'm then able to, let's see, and I'll hide one more of these. So once I've done that, I'm then able to just turn this information in the Excel file into the title of the photo. And so that way, I just kind of copy and paste that. Chrome actually lets me go from having it in Excel to having it in Windows Explorer. Otherwise, it gives me a little error message because there are still tabs in that in those rows in Excel. So then I just kind of click on it, and you know, I've got my nice little photo there. And so, you know, I have probably hundreds, maybe thousands of photos like this, and just kind of a nice way to keep track of where the planes were. So just as an example, here's a clip from my Newark airport tour that I'm working on, and in this one, I actually found about 19 wide bodies during that tour. So my first step was just kind of going through, getting some screenshots, which you see up here, and putting the registrations in those columns. So that's the first step. My next step then is to go to a site like FlightAware and figure out, okay, you know, where are these planes departing from, and where are they coming to? And it's not always obvious. So for instance, I have N232U here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into FlightAware, and just copy and paste the registration. And this page takes me not to the United 91 page, the route it's flying, but instead the aircraft page. So this lets me see all the different routes the plane is flying. So what I do is I know that I saw it on Monday, April 22nd, when I was leaving. So I'm going to see, okay, it looks like that day it obviously flew in from Hong Kong from 10:29 in the morning, and then it got in at 2:18 local time. And then that evening it flew out at 8:29 Eastern to Mumbai. And so basically what I do there is I say, okay, so this one came from Hong Kong, HKG, to Mumbai, BOM. And once I have that data there, I'm also going to see, okay, this is a 777-300ER, and that code is B77W. And so, whoops, I'm going to include the airline too. So what I do is once I find that one is 2496. I think it's one of the first videos I show. I just kind of scroll here, 2496. That's this one. I'm just going to copy and paste in that information. It's not the best video because it's at night, but it's the plane, so I'm just going to add that in and trim it. And so then my role is to do that for the next 18 or so, and that's how I incorporate those registrations in. And I think it is kind of neat to look back and say, oh wow, that plane came from Hong Kong and that's flying to Mumbai, so it really is crisscrossing that world. So kind of neat to be able to include that. So as you can see now, I have the origin and destination airports for each of these aircraft. So kind of neat to see where all the planes were flying from. I also went on to, I think, Airframes, is it airframes.org? Yeah, airframes.org, which is another great site. I went on airframes.org and looked up some of the dates the planes were built. And so, you know, those range from 2017 to 1991 for the wide bodies I saw in this tour. So, you know, that's kind of fun too, to see some older planes still flying around. And so once I've, you know, entered in registrations for different planes and kind of arranged the video how I like it, then, you know, I try to add in a little bit of information about the airport. So what I usually like to start my videos with is, at least for domestic airports, how busy is this airport compared to others. So I actually have bookmarked in Firefox this wonderful little page. It's from the FAA, and it just shows data on enplanements, which is slightly different, a little less than half, I think, of total passenger counts for airports. But let's see where Bradley is. I think it is, I'll just, oh, no, I see it down there. Yeah, Bradley, Windsor Locks. Okay, so this was the 53rd busiest airport in the U.S. in 2017 by passenger enplanement. So usually I'll just kind of, you know, nothing fancy. I'll just create a subtitle, you know, in 2017 was I was a little busier than that, 53rd busiest airport in the United States. In terms, whoops, I'm not doing very good typing right now in Steno, in terms of passenger enplanements. So, you know, I'll just find little data like that. Then what I like to look at is, this is one of my favorite sites. If I go to, let's see, kayak.com/routes/BDL. This is a great site because it is a really nifty way of seeing what routes are available from an airport in a given year or in a given month. So this is what it looks like. This is the route map for BDL, and I can see they still have that Dublin flight. It looks like other than Cancun and Toronto, those are probably their only international flights. No, they have Montreal too. So then I like to give some information about, you know, what international, especially intercontinental routes an airport might offer. If you go to kayak.com/direct, which I'll do here, that lets you see the all the routes just listed. I think, yeah, all the nonstop flights. So, for instance, what I'm doing here is I'm just noting what the 10 farthest nonstop routes from Bradley were in April 2019. So, farthest nonstop passenger routes from Bradley in April 2019 were to, and so here I'm just going to list the airline codes. We have Dublin, LAX, San Juan, Denver, Cancun, Houston, Dallas, Miami, Fort Myers, and Fort Lauderdale. So also another helpful resource is just seeing airport maps. So, you know, if I'm trying to figure out, okay, where was I in the airport? Obviously the signs help a little bit, but, you know, I can confirm here that, okay, Bradley doesn't seem to really have concourse names, but there's gates 1 to 12 and then gates 20 to 30. So, you know, this way seeing this sign, I can say, okay, so this isn't really a concourse, it's just called gates 1 to 12. And simple as that, I put that in so people know where I'm filming from. So, you know, now I've kind of added in a couple, you know, subtitles, just with a little bit of information. Nothing too fancy, just some general information about, you know, what I see in the airport, about flights, where I am in the airport, the check-in area, the baggage claim, and that's really about it. So, you know, my next step would just be, you know, adding a nice little title screen. And again, this is nothing fancy. I usually just kind of take a screenshot of what I see and, you know, what might be a nice little title screen to have. So, I think I like this one because it shows the gates. It's pretty well lit, so I'm just gonna add that in. And then I'll just, you know, have a pretty simple title like 4K tour of Bradley International Airport, you know, and just the date it was filmed and things of that nature. So I just want to note too that as far as how I number my clips, the number on the right indicates is a sequential number that indicates how many clips I filmed up to that point. And so this one being 21106, this is more or less the 21st 106,000th clip I have from my Panasonic camera. So, you know, at this point I'm more or less finished with the bulk of the editing. Save often. What I would do now, more or less, is make a couple extra edits and adjustments. You know, adjust my links for things. I don't really like to have too long of a title screen because I want you to be able to see the video pretty soon after I film it. What I do always like to do, and you'll notice there's really no music, no extra effects. I mean, sometimes I'll add in a little bit of effects, but generally, you know, what I film, that's kind of what I like to show. You know, I think just the sound of the airport is often a lot more interesting than my voice, or just, you know, some music. So usually all I'll do at that point is just a little run through. First I'll kind of, you know, do some copy editing, make sure there aren't any typos in my subtitles. I'll kind of make sure in my clips that, you know, they all have the ends trimmed off so that, you know, you don't have any weird camera noise. And then I'll really just do a little run through of the video. You know, I will kind of film it as it plays and just see, okay, is this clip too long? Is this clip too short? Did I, you know, make some other mistake? And then I'll just kind of go through it that way. And once I'm done with it, I'll be ready to actually save it. So let's just pretend that I liked how it looked. You know, what I do then is to save it. Obviously, I'd save it to my computer. As far as editing settings, what I like about Corel is it makes saving it in 4K really simple. I save them as MP4 files for settings. You know, it's not a 60 frame per second camera, so 29.97 frames per second is fine. Obviously, you've got your 4K 3840 by 2160 settings. I set to the highest data rate that I can, which is 65,000 kilobits per second. Audio of 48,000 hertz, and then it's really ready to save. So I just click start there, and then you know, once it renders, then I can upload it to YouTube. So that is more or less how I make these videos. It is, I think, you know, not a lot goes into them. You know, if it's a pretty simple airport with not a lot of wide bodies, then I'd probably be able to edit the whole thing in about 2 hours, and so really doesn't take too much time. So I hope this gave you a little bit of insights